Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to have a look at designs and the work for the second year revision. So along with design movements, this will be in paper 2, your hour and a half long paper, look on like design theory and that type of thing. So a little recap of what we need to know from last year. So each of the designers we're going to go through on this PowerPoint you need to know about, you need to know what their design philosophy is and then sort of examples of their key work. So the first one is a Frenchman named Felix Stark. So he's still an active designer. So a lot of his designs are what you call like quite playful and thought-provoking. So not necessarily taking it overly serious and decorative kind of things, but very unusual. He liked to play around with like modern materials and manufacturing processes, which is quite opposite to what like design movements like say arts and crafts would do. Who would like kept like a very quote unquote like pure idea of design, so they keep everything very natural, like grained, everything's made by hand, whereas someone like Felix Stark, all the new technologies, all the new materials, he try and embrace that and incorporate that into his designs. So his most famous design is what's called the Alessi Lemon Squeezer, which is this spaceship looking thing that you see in the middle of the screen. Now this is a very common one to have on exam papers. It does come on quite a lot, and it's what's considered like an iconic design, but it does have some flaws with it. So a few of them being that it has quite a high centre of mass, hence like the main body at the top up here, which means it's quite unstable when you're actually physically using it because it might end up like falling over. It's the right size for a lemon, but it's too big for you to try and squeeze an orange in it. It's considered more of a display piece that you'd leave out in your kitchen, so rather than like use it, put it away. It's almost like a form of like 3D art, almost like similar to like having a poster or a painting you'd have on the wall. You'd have this, it would be almost like a centerpiece of like, oh look, I've got this kind of thing. Because originals are incredibly expensive. And then the idea being that you could put a glass underneath the bottom of it there and it would collect the juice that way. So it's a beautiful piece. It's just not an overly functional product, but then it's not designed to be overly functional. It's there to look nice, and it would match a lot of kitchens that nowadays that use a lot of chrome and that type of thing. So next is James Dyson. So he's obviously a very famous British designer and engineer. So his most famous original design is the DC01 vacuum cleaner, which is the one you see in the picture with. Well, not quite, because this has got the new ball design to it, but that was the first bagless cyclone technology vacuum cleaner, which he famously came up with the idea when he was on a bus and he saw the wind blowing. I think it was like blowing bits of rubbish, and he saw it all like twist around, and he scribbled the idea on a napkin. That's sort of like the legend of how he came up with the original idea. So his sort of key features of his design is like quite innovative technology, but not in new products, in like existing products. So things like the vacuum cleaner, hair dryers, or like things that already exist. He's taken and just tried to improve on them and make them better that way. So obviously his vacuum cleaner is the most famous one, but he is responsible for a wide range of domestic products. Things like hair dryers, hair straighteners, fans, like are all used quite a lot. Things like hand dryers that you might find as well. These are all very like domestic products that a lot of households have. A lot of designs have sort of the same sort of look, like the grey main body, which is supposed to look quite robotic and quite engineering based, and then like a key piece of colour. Obviously the vacuum cleaner, you've got the yellow, the hairdryer, you've got the pink. So it's meant to be grey and then like a splash of a little bit of colour that goes with it. Next is Margaret Calvert. So she's a very influential graphic designer. Now she's someone you may not have heard before, but you will see her work every single day when you leave your house. So she basically came up with the transport font and the standard pictograms used on pretty much every single road sign that you come across. So every single road sign you see on the motorway, most of the traffic signs you see, she came up with one, the font, and then two, the actual physical pictogram graphic that goes in the middle of it. She's still very, very active now, and her work is absolutely everywhere. So is definitely what you call an influential designer, because the stuff is just, when we say influential or iconic, it means it's just ingrained into our everyday like psyche, that we just see it all the time, we just accept it for what it is. So next we've got Datarams, who is a German designer. He's still alive. Whether he is still active or not, I can't really tell you. I'm not 100% sure if he's still active. He might still be. But he's what you would call a functional designer. He took quite a simple approach to design. So this is sort of almost the opposite of Felix Stark. He thought his design should always be functional but minimal at the same time. So the idea being that it's not over designed, it's not over complicated, it's not crowded on the design. He's not put design for design's sake. It's got to be nice and clean and work really, really well. He relies a lot on technological developments, always incorporates those into his designs. He did a lot of work in the past with with companies like Braun. His most famous design is the SK4 radio set, which is what you see at the bottom of your screen there. And he came up with what's called like the 10 principles of good design. And these 10 principles are used a huge amount in the actual industry today. There are exam questions that come up with the 10 principles as well, so it's vital that you know them. But he really is sort of like the godfather. Like, these are sort of like the 10 commandments, if you will, of what a good design should be if you're sort of down the route of Datarams' style of functional, minimalist sort of design. So his idea is that they should be innovative, so you're not just designing something and there's nothing new to it. It should be useful, should be aesthetic, should be understandable. What he means by that is it should be quite intuitive. You don't have to start getting a manual out to understand how to use something. It should be quite simple to just pick up and use. It should be unobtrusive, so quite unoffensive. It shouldn't be ugly. It should fit into what you're doing. It should be honest. It should have longevity, so it's not like a flash in the pan. It's not like it's popular for like a fad, like for 6 months and you chuck it away type of thing. Should be thorough down to the last detail, so every part, even like the really small features of a certain design, is all thought through. It's not just done the main bit and then at the end of the design process, he goes, we'll just whack this little bit on here. Every single part of it is thought through very, very well. It should be environmentally friendly and as little design as possible. That doesn't mean he's not doing anything. Again, it just means it's the whole idea of like minimalist design where nothing is overly cluttered, nothing is messy. It's all just very nice, clean and simple. So next you got Charles and Ray Arms. So they most famously are furniture designers. They have done other things as well. So their most famous thing is they've done the Arms Lounger, which is the one you see down here. So they did a lot of stuff with moulded furniture in plywood and plastics. They have been around for a huge amount of time. One of the most famous quotes they have is, "We don't do art, we solve problems." They were quite active in the war, where they actually designed mouldings not just for furniture but also for things like stretchers and gliders and things like that for soldiers, to kind of make it as cheap and easy to mass produce and transport, along with a lot of like biomorphic designs and ship to war zones. So basically make sure that it's like trying to problem solve in a war zone to like make it easier for people to get out okay. So, and the last one you got is Marianne Brandt, who was a student of the Bauhaus school. So if you're unfamiliar with Bauhaus, please look at the design movements video. So Bauhaus was a German design school who went by the idea of something called form follows function. So the idea that something should look nice, and then from the looks should be how it works should be the most important thing. Then how it looks sort of feeds from how it works. Her most famous design is the geometric pure kitchen products, which is what you see in the middle of the screen. So she was a German painter, a sculptor, photographer, a metalsmith and a designer. So she studied with Bauhaus and then later became head of the Bauhaus Metal Workshop in 1924. Today, her designs for household objects such as lamps, ashtrays, teapots are considered timeless, particularly for like the modern industrial style of design, where it was the first use of metal work and forming processes where things weren't made by hand. So those are the main designers and their work that have been going to come up on your exams. As I said, there are others that exist, things like Seymour Powell and Johnny Ive with the iPod and those sort of things. But these are what considered like the most iconic ones that could possibly come up in your exam, particularly Felix Stark and James Dyson, and Datarams like the main ones. But any of these could come up, so it's important you know who they are, what their sort of design belief was, and then again what their most common, most famous designs were. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at some questions relating to the topic as well. So I've gone through, taken some past questions, broken down the mark scheme for you, and then we'll have a look through. So the first one, Datarams states that good design is understandable. Use a specific product, explain what is meant by this. So 3 marks, 1 for naming suitable product, and 2 for explaining how good design is understandable relates to it. So pause the video, give yourself 3 minutes, have a go at going through it. Okay, so good design is understandable. So this basically means well-designed products are easy to use. Understandable means that it's intuitive, so you don't need to get instructions for it. It's well designed, so it's clear what it needs to do. So anything explaining as you can show what it knows, you know what it means. So relevant product example, things like a TV remote, electric toothbrush, Pelican crossing, any of those. So make sure you can say, what does the design is understandable actually mean? Name suitable product, and then talk about. Well, no one ever uses an instruction manual like the TV remote, do they? Because everyone just knows what the buttons do because the labels on it, and the colours obviously make it quite clear what the buttons do and that type of thing. So next, 8 marks. Figure 1 and Figure 2 show designs from modernist and postmodernist design movements. Evaluate how well each of the chairs meet the design principles of the movements to which it belongs. So you got 8 marks. So 4 points of talking about each chair and explained. If you can't remember the design movement, take an educated guess. Look at the chairs and think about how it looks. What materials have they used, and see if you can figure out the style of the design movement from it. So it's sort of taking hints from the question, the question itself. So you can obviously they're very, very different chairs. Okay, one has got a lot more playful, a lot more unusual shapes to it, a lot more brighter colours. One is a lot more fabricated, it's like all one piece, like metal, chrome, and then wicker seat and back. So if you can't say off the top of your head what modernist or postmodernist was, have a look at that and try and get hints that way. So 8 marks, pause the video, have a go, and then we'll go for the answers. Okay, so figure 1, modernism. So the idea that form follows function. So the product is clearly identifiable as a chair. So you don't look at it, oh, I don't know what that is. Everyday objects for everyday people. So again, we're talking very much Bauhausy here. So if we're looking at it, you look at it, you clearly know that's a chair. Whereas in the second one, you look at that, you might not know that's a chair, obviously. So everyday objects for everyday people. So the material used, stainless steel tubing. Obviously, could be all fabricated in a nice long piece. The seat coverings are expensive, thus the product is more affordable for most people. Products for a machine age, so it's something that can be produced easily. Geometric pure forms, everything like square, shaped back and actual seat itself, and then the circular tubing for it. It's nice and easy to use. So figure 2, postmodernism. So this is aesthetics over function. Obviously the idea is supposed to look weird and look, ooh, what's that kind of thing, as opposed to looking like a chair. At first glance it's unclear if this is a seat or a piece of art. The way the back tubing curves around the front makes the product look unstable. The armrest looks like decorative spheres, and it does not look as though the arm could rest very comfortable, as only the elbow would be supported. Design influenced by fashion and media. The chair has a futuristic or pop art sort of theme. And then geometric shapes. The chair uses circles in the seat, backrest, armrest, and the loop of the low carbon steel back to front support. So the idea you got with these two, obviously one is very much supposed to look like a chair and to work very, very well. Supposed to be easy to mass produce. I remember having one of these chairs in my house when I was younger. Whereas this one is supposed to look weird, it's supposed to be unusual, it's supposed to look quirky, it's supposed to have all these nice bright colours. And obviously it's not meant to be, is it really going to be comfortable to use as a chair? Whereas we know this one actually probably is going to be quite comfortable. So 4 points for each one, and work from there. So next one, between two objects equal in function and cost, the more beautiful sells. So the above statement was Raymond Lowery's definition of good design. With reference to a specific product, explain how aesthetics has played an important part in their success. So, first thing again is making sure you pick a good product to write about. Okay, if you pick one that you don't know enough to write about, you are not going to be able to get the marks properly. Simplify the question. It's basically asking which products have sold because they look a particular way. Okay, so which ones have got quite a quirky look or they're very beautiful, and that's why people sell them. So 12 marks, that's 6 points with evidence. So again, pause the video, give yourself 12 minutes, we'll go for the answers. So the link between aesthetics and the success of a named product. So the quality of the answer may depend to some degree upon your choice of product, obviously. So products may be things like Apple products may be used a lot, like use of white and chrome, that kind of thing. Expect reference to colour, shape, form. Link to specific design movements. Bauhaus for forms follows function. Memphis use of primary colours and bizarre shapes, that kind of thing. Arts and crafts, use of nature for decoration. Effective use of material on pattern, texture, grain, that kind of thing, or leather, glass, chrome. Colour, so we're not allowed to award answers which stray from question and discuss good design in wider terms. It's got to be specific to a product. So the question asks how aesthetics have played an important part in the success of a product. So things like the elastic lemon squeezer. So things like that, like the perfect example, because it's not a very good lemon juicer, but it's been a very successful product because it looks pretty and people want to have it in their kitchen. So that'd be like this perfect example type thing. But obviously, just make sure you know enough about it to answer the question. So it's basically asking, like, the thing there is probably making sure you understand the wording. Okay, so it really is. It's basically asking which product has sold well simply down to its looks as opposed to how it physically works. Okay, that is the end of designers and their work. If you've got any questions, please send me a message on Teams or email and I'll get back to you.